So I wanted to do a follow-up after my last video where I was talking about my trip to Mexico and how my plans fell through but other ones worked out, because there's definitely times where you're in between even what your next step is. You know, like when I first found out I was fired from the hostel, like I was definitely in a state of panic. And I guess I just want to say, like, it's all right. You know, it's all right for us to be scared or worried. And when we stay close to that actual experience, like the actual feeling, that supports us in kind of getting through it. And what gets tricky is when we go into our mind and we create a story of, you know, like I messed up. You know, like I messed up and somehow, and if I would be feeling better if I hadn't messed up. And that somehow we tend to evaluate things by how we feel about them, which on one hand you'd think like, well, of course. But then that really discredits how much value there can be in so many different experiences that we have that maybe don't feel pleasant at the time, but there's still a lot of beauty there, maybe just in a different form. And I just feel for us when we do that, when we go to a place of making up a story. Because like my trip to Mexico, like let's say the plans fell through and then my next plans didn't work out and I ended up having a horrible trip. You know, like, can that be okay? To not have had an amazing time somewhere and still have my life be fine? You know, like that's where I find some freedom. Not from how good or bad the trip was, but it comes back to how I'm relating to my experience and then catching when I'm like evaluating it. You know, we have these like huge range of emotions as humans, but we've somehow tended to narrow it down so that our experiences are only the ones that supposedly give us positive emotions and the rest is kind of like waste. You know, and it's like, God, is that really true? Because why would we have so many emotions? Why would every human have such a similar range of emotions if the other ones didn't have their own value or their own wisdom or their own whatever? So yeah, I just wanted to share that because, you know, yes, there will be an eventual next step that arises, but sometimes you're in between. You're even in between, you know, one little step to the next. And that's the space where I think if we stay close to our experience with a lot of honoring and care, you know, and maybe acknowledging like, yeah, this is like a really hard time right now, but staying close, like that ends up, I think, really contributing to a general sense of well-being, kind of regardless of what the next external experience happens to be.